All right, I've had a lot of questions lately on how I'm building my electric fences. Through some trial and error, I think right now what's making the most sense to me is 3 strands on the outside and 1 on the inside. And that's because I think the inside one is really just to confuse their depth perception, so you don't need a bunch of them. And the outside is what they're gonna get, zapped by. And I like having that center one because I feel like when I have seen them go through, they step through. So that's kind of the system I've been working on. So basically step 1, what I do is I try and make these fences now so that they're manageable, because I don't want to be taking them all down every year and then putting them all back up. So I'm making them kind of like semi-permanent, and I'm also using them to funnel deer in and out kind of how I want them to. So anywhere, so as far as making it easy to manage, there's a couple things. One, I want to make sure all my stakes, and these will get cut down, I want to make sure all my stakes are down as low as possible, which is basically the height of my fiberglass stakes. That way, if I can build a sprayer bar and I can run it over the top of them to spray it. And then also, anywhere I want them super straight. I want all my runs super straight, so there's no pressure on those fiberglass stakes, so that it doesn't bend them and break them and stuff over the years. So basically, the first step I do is I use these wooden posts anywhere where I'm going to have a section that I'm taking down once I want the deer to go in there to eat the food. So like these sections I take down, I put wood on, and that way I can fasten these clips. And I get all this stuff on Amazon. I can fasten these clips to the wood stakes, and the other side, which we'll show you, is the same setup, but I have a handle so I can take that tape down. Okay, so I basically figure out my opens, I drive in these wood posts, and then everywhere there's a corner or a jog in the fence, I go around and I set my T-post. And basically, if I hold my arms out, elbow to elbow is about the distance I'm running these things. So I go and I tack all my corners or jogs in with metal T-posts, and then I go around with a tractor and I push them down. And again, I push them down as deep as I can to get them to the same height as the fiberglass. And then once I do that, I found this on Amazon, which has been really handy. And you can use the tape as your straight line, but I just find this is quicker, faster, easier. This was like a kite reel, and it worked really well, actually. So basically, what I'm doing with this is just using it as a string line. So I'm going to stretch this out around my posts. Okay. Now I've been using these fiberglass stakes because the bigger, thicker plastic ones, they tend to get brittle and break. So this is what I've been using, and I go every 13 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then I'll just drop 2. When you put these things in, just always make sure that they're all facing the same direction. That way when you walk down one edge of it, you don't got to fight and go inside and outside. Again, get all these on Amazon. It's just a cheap handle, and it makes it super easy to get in here and spray and stuff, and then take this section down for the season. So anywhere there's a bend in the fence, we use this type of isolator, and that way it can loop around. And anywhere there's a metal post on a straight run, which I usually only do like if it's a really long run, maybe every 150 feet or so, then I just use the straight standoffs for the tape. What's nice about these little buckles is if stuff changes on your fence and you need to tighten it, they cinch. So I've just been leaving a little tail and just tying not a very tight overhand knot so it doesn't slip. And I don't really want that touching anything, so not too long. So when we have to connect 2 tapes, we used to just tie them together, but these clips are cheap enough. I got them on valleyvetsupply.com. And basically I just tie a little knot in the tag end so it doesn't slip through. And it's got this one open end, so you just fold it in half and you bring it through and then you hook the loop over that open end, and then it's all done. And that way you got 2 tag ends to tighten the fence if it ever gets loose. These are the little tape connectors we buy to charge the fence. When they ship, the eyelet is between them. I always like to take, if you can see that, so I don't want that little hollow spot because it won't be as tight. So I always take these apart and pull the eyelet out. And that way I can put it on the outside of the metal. So the energizers, I just get all this stuff on Amazon. It's a 5-mile energizer. And then there's a 4-foot ground rod driven into the ground and clamped on. And then there's a little, that goes to the, obviously the negative side, and then the hot side here goes over to our clamps and just jumps to all our strings, and it's pretty simple. Another mistake I've made in the past is like putting my fences too close to the wood line and trying to get as much space as possible for the food plot. It's good to pull it off, you know, make sure you have a nice spot to drive and mow and maintain, because you're going to want to be able to drive around these fences and keep this sprayed with a residual so you don't get stuff growing up in there and shorten out your fence.